Hey guys, my name is Brett and I'm from Infinite Squid, and today I want to talk about 5 things that are killing your mix. A little bit about me: I went to university for computer science and music production, and since then I've done a lot of recording, mixing, and mastering of my own music. I've done a little bit for television, movies, and as well as just recording other bands that were around in the area. And I just have some tips that I want to share that I think will help you when you're getting into your own mixing. Alright, first things first, good sound in equals good sound out. Now, when you're recording, you want to make sure that any noisy vents are covered up. You have a decent microphone to record with. It doesn't have to be anything super expensive. You could buy just like a SM57. They're like $90, I think. So you don't have to go all crazy, but you do want to make sure you have a good mic. You want to make sure that any noise, fans, maybe you have a noisy light or anything are turned off or covered up, because the mic is definitely going to amplify that and it will pick it up. And other than that, you also want to make sure that whatever sound source you're recording is tuned in the way you want it. So say you're recording a guitar, you have a guitar amp, make sure your tones are set in, make sure the levels that you're recording into the program are set, and that's just going to make it way easier to mix down the line. It's a lot easier to mix a good sound than it is to try to fix up a bad sound, and that just frees you up for more creativity in the mix later on, instead of having to spend a bunch of time trying to fix something. Now, number 2 is to make sure that you take advantage of panning. Now, panning is where the sound is going to sit between left and right speaker. So there's a whole range in between there, to the point where you can have it pointed straight ahead, which would be equal in both speakers. You can have it panned all the way to the right. That's going to sound like it's just coming out of the right side. And you want to play around with this, because if you have everything in the same spot, it's all competing for that same space in the mix. So a common way to do this is you'd have, your kick, your snare, and then maybe your lead instruments like a voice or lead guitar would be panned straight ahead. And then your backing tracks, like your rhythm guitar, that sort of thing, you want to have off to the sides, and you can play around with it. It gets a lot of fun when you're doing drums, because you can pan just like you're sitting at a drum set, and it's just going to make your mix way more dynamic. Number 3 is to make sure that you are using your high-pass filters. So humans don't have that great of hearing. We can only hear between a certain set of frequencies, and your mic will pick up frequencies that we can't even hear, especially on the lower end. So I'm not necessarily talking about like a bass instrument here, like a kick, but say you have a snare, you're gonna have lower frequencies that get picked up, but that's all gonna be kind of mud, and it's just gonna muddy up the mix. You're not gonna really be able to hear those, and it's just not really valuable frequency to keep around. So a lot of the times we want to cut out these lower frequencies so that we can clean up the mix and just kind of open up space for the bass and the kick to shine through. So that's really important. That's one that's going to clean up your mix a lot. You're going to get a lot crisper sounding instruments as well. And number 4 is to make sure that your timing is good before you record. A lot of the times you want to record to a click track that's already at the same speed that you're going to record into the software, and this is going to make it so that when you record, you just already have better timing going into the editing process. So you don't have to be exactly on, because there is a process that we can use to edit that up and actually lock in your timing. But the closer you are to that when you record, the easier it's going to be and the less time you're going to spend in post fixing it up. So that's really important, and that's important for gigs as well. Just make sure that you practice, and especially if you're buying studio time, because if your timing's off, it's going to be harder to get a good take, and then you're going to end up just spending way more time in the studio than you need. Number 5 is a combo, actually. So rushing and mixing for too long. I was actually guilty of this myself, and I've also seen other bands do it as well. So a lot of people get really excited when they get in the studio. They've already set their day for when they want to launch everything, and I would say that isn't a great idea because like in our case, we had set a day, and we honestly probably would have hit it, but we ended up having some issues with our software. We had to do a bunch of stuff just to be able to get the file listenable again, and the mix suffered because of it. And because we had already set our deadline, we had already been telling people when it was going to come out, we really had to just rush, and we ended up with probably not as good of a product as we would have had if we would have just waited until we were almost done and then set the date. So that's an important one. You just don't want to rush it. Just take your time until you like the product. And it doesn't mean it has to be perfect either, but you know, the more time you spend on it and the less rushing you do, the more enjoyable the experience is going to be, and the better your song is going to sound in the end. And then mixing for too long can also cause problems. So our ears actually get tired after a while, especially if we're listening to like a loud source when we're mixing. So you'll often notice maybe you mix for like 2 to 4 hours, and you think it sounds really good, and then you come in the morning and you're like, what was I thinking? This was not good. So in that case, what happened was your ears got tired, you were still mixing, and because your ears were fatigued, you thought you were hearing it sound good, but your ears were tired and you're making adjustments based off that. So you want to give yourself breaks when you can, so that you can come back with fresh ears, because you'll be able to hear things a lot better. Anyways, that's all I've got. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you liked it. I'm going to have more of these videos coming out, and I'm also going to focus more on Studio One, which is a software kind of similar to Ableton, Fruity Loops, that sort of thing. So yeah, stick around for that.